Along with all of the sandbox changes that came with the final shape, Well of Radiance took some nerfs that lower player survivability inside the well. Its healing per second was halved and damage resistance was significantly decreased. This is obviously a change that will affect your survivability in the day 1 raid, particularly during DPS phases. To partly mitigate this, one of my clanmates had the idea to use Renewal Grasps to grant your entire fire team frost armor during a DPS phase. At first I thought, do you really want to run Stasis Hunter in a day 1 raid? But then I looked into it and I did some testing with all the stasis buffs and I realized this might not actually be a bad idea. So in this video I'll show you why this might be really good, and I'm also going to show you the full build so that you don't have to do any last minute build crafting because we are on a time crunch before the raid. First, let's talk about all of the major buffs that Stasis got in the final shape. One of the biggest buffs to Stasis was the Silence and Squall, which received a major damage buff which you can use with Star Eater skills. I did some rough testing and found that its total damage has roughly doubled. So before final shape it was dealing around 38% the damage of a Radiant Celestial Golden Gunshot, and now it is dealing around 68.6% the damage, and with Star Eater skills its total damage goes up to around 81% of a Radiant Celestial Golden Gunshot. This damage increase is partly due to the buff to shatter damage, which is now doing twice the damage from before, and this change greatly improves your offensive neutral game using Stasis. Winter's Shroud also received 2 important buffs where your dodge recharges a lot faster when you slow an enemy, and you get damage resistance while you're dodging. During a DPS phase, when you use Silence and Squall on a boss, Winter's Shroud is going to recharge multiple reload dodges, which is going to help increase your DPS. Whisper of Impetus deserves a special mention here because although it wasn't changed for final shape, it allows you to perform some pretty interesting DPS rotations, which can allow you to compete with DPS supers, especially now with the Silence and Squall damage buff. Now going back to the original idea of using Renewal Grasps during DPS. With the newly buffed Whisper of Torment, you will be able to maintain a 100% uptime on Frost Armor for your entire fire team during a DPS phase. Because you're likely going to be taking damage in the well, Whisper of Torment will give you your full grenade back before your team's Frost Armor runs out. At 5 stacks of Frost Armor, your team will be receiving a 22.5% damage resist. This might not sound like a lot, but it can be the difference between you living and dying in the well. And since you'll be on Whisper of Rime, your personal damage resist will be 36%. For DPS phases, throw your grenade down before DPS starts so that your whole team can build full resist before you start taking damage. So here's the build. Starting off with the weapons, this build's gameplay loop doesn't rely on any specific weapon setup, so you can run whatever you want or whatever the activity demands. Then looking at armor, obviously you want Renewal Grasps, and for the mods, you can just copy whatever I have here, obviously changing your siphons, resistances, surges, and scavengers accordingly. The mods that are noteworthy here are Bomber, Reaper, and Powerful Attraction because with this build you're going to have your dodge back so fast. Optionally, you can play around with Fastball if you want to throw renewal grenades to your teammates faster. For the build, you want Reload Dodge and Duskfield Grenade, and then for aspects you want Winter's Shroud and Grim Harvest. The reason I use Winter's Shroud here and not Touch of Winter is because with Renewal Grasps, the Duskfield is already pretty large and Winter's Shroud is really strong right now. So keep in mind, this whole Renewal Grasp idea may or may not make a difference for you in the day 1, but if you have teammates struggling to survive in the well during the raid, this could be worth trying, and I just wanted to throw this idea out there. Anyways, I wish you all the best in the day 1 raid, and I'll see you guys next time.